In a quiet little town lying beside a wide river, life drifted slowly, just like the gentle current. There stood an old wooden bridge crossing the darkest and deepest stretch of the river. It had been there for decades, once the only link between the town and the sandbar on the far bank. Now, almost no one dared to cross it at night. The reason was not that the bridge was weak, but because of a legend passed down from generation to generation. People believed that on nights when the fog was thick, a young man's ghost would appear on the bridge, tall and slender, sitting silently on the railing, his eyes searching for something in the pitch-black waters below. According to the elders, the young man had died in a violent storm many years ago. That night, he had thrown himself into the river to save a friend who had slipped and fallen in. But instead of returning together, he was swept away by the raging current. While the friend survived, some said he died a hero, others whispered he had been betrayed. Over time, the story blurred, and the ghost became a haunting presence in the minds of the townsfolk. In that same town lived Asha, a young woman known for her strong spirit and love of adventure. Yet she had never set foot on the bridge at night. She had heard the tale since childhood, but the curiosity inside her burned quietly, like a flame waiting for the right moment to flare. Asha had heard the legend hundreds of times. Each time it was told, voices would drop and eyes would flash with fear. On foggy nights, the townsfolk locked their doors, avoiding the river entirely. But the more she heard, the more determined she became. Was the ghost real, or was it just a story to scare children away from crossing at night? One evening, as the sun sank low, Asha sat by her window, gazing out. The last golden light bathed the river, while a chill wind blew from the north. She felt her resolve rising. She knew that if she didn't find out for herself, the question would haunt her forever. That night, with the moon hanging high and a thin mist beginning to creep over the water, Asha prepared for her journey. She took a small oil lamp, making sure the flame would not die midway. In the pocket of her coat, she placed a protective charm her grandmother had given her, along with the advice: if you truly encounter something strange, stay calm and never turn your back. The wooden boards groaned under her feet as she stepped onto the bridge. Beneath her, the planks were weathered and warped from years of wind and rain. The lamp cast a warm, golden glow, but around her lay a deep, impenetrable darkness, broken only by the sound of water lapping against the banks and the wind whistling through the gaps in the railing. The farther she went toward the middle, the stranger the air became. The fog thickened, and the temperature seemed to drop. Her heart pounded harder. She stopped, drew a deep breath, and braced herself for whatever lay ahead. A few more steps, and a sudden gust of icy wind shook the lamp in her hand. Its flickering light cast restless shadows across the boards. In that moment, she felt she was no longer alone. Looking up, she saw, at the far end of the bridge, shrouded in heavy fog, a shadowy figure. He was tall and lean, his shoulders hunched as though burdened by something unseen. His long hair hung wet, dripping onto the wooden boards, mingling with the rhythmic lap of the river. Her throat tightened, yet her feet seemed drawn forward. The fear she expected never came. Instead, there was a strange mix of curiosity and pity. As she moved closer, the lamplight revealed his face, a young man, his skin pale as mist, his deep eyes heavy with an endless sorrow. Swallowing hard, Asha spoke in a trembling voice. "Who are you?" The figure lifted his head slightly, lips parting. His voice drifted like a breath of wind. "I wait for an apology that never came." She froze, her heart pounding. The words carried a weight of unshakable regret, as though she had brushed against a long-buried truth. Gathering her courage, she stepped closer. "Why don't you leave this place?" A faint smile touched his lips, thin as moonlight through fog. "Because I've been trapped here since that night." The words fell into the stillness, mingling with the wind's whisper and the rush of the river. Asha knew she had just stepped into a story she would never forget. She held the lamp higher, its warm light wrapping around them both. Through the mist, his eyes seemed to hold an entire lifetime of memories. Slowly, he began to speak, his voice low and tinged with sorrow, breaking at times like it was carried away by the wind. Years ago, he had been a young man from this very town, named Ravi. He and a childhood friend would often cross the bridge to fish on the sandbar, talking and dreaming of the future. But one stormy night, while they were on the bridge, His friend slipped into the river. Without hesitation, Ravi leapt after him. The water was freezing and wild. He fought to pull his friend toward the shore, but instead of feeling his friend's grasp, he felt a push, light, but enough to break his balance. In that instant, Ravi understood the awful truth. His friend had chosen to save himself, leaving him to the flood. When he awoke, he no longer belonged to the world of the living. He found himself standing on the bridge, surrounded by fog, unable to step onto either bank, forever trapped in the middle. At first, he waited for someone to discover the truth. But over the years, the tale was twisted into a ghost story, turning him into the phantom on the bridge of the townspeople's imagination. Asha was silent as she listened. In his eyes, she saw no anger, only sadness and a yearning for release. She knew she could not walk away as if she had heard nothing. "If I can find your friend, would you like to see him again?" she asked. Ravi only nodded faintly, a fragile hope flickering in his gaze. For days afterward, Asha searched tirelessly. At last, she found the man, now middle-aged, living quietly in a distant village. At first, he avoided her questions, but when she spoke Ravi's name, his face drained of color. In his eyes, she glimpsed the remorse he had buried for a lifetime. She did not accuse him. She simply said softly, "He's still waiting for an apology on the old bridge." That night, under a crescent moon, Asha led the man back to the bridge. The stillness was so complete they could hear their own hearts beating. As they reached the center, the fog thickened, and Ravi's figure emerged. His eyes rested on his old friend, filled not with resentment, but with waiting. The man stood frozen for a long time, then dropped to his knees, voice shaking. "I'm sorry for leaving you that night. Not a day has passed that I haven't thought of it." The river wind stirred, the mist thinning to reveal a gentle smile on Ravi's face. He stepped back, his form fading into the moonlight. Before he vanished completely, he looked at Asha and nodded in gratitude. Only the sound of the wind and flowing water remained. But Asha knew his soul was free at last. The bridge, once shrouded in gloom, became a place where people told a story of forgiveness and friendship. The townsfolk named it the Bridge of Reconciliation, and from then on, no one feared crossing it at night. As for Asha, she carried that memory all her life, proof that courage was not only facing the dark, but bringing light back to a lost heart. From that night on, the tale of the ghost on the bridge began to change in the townspeople's telling. No longer a frightening legend to scare children, it became a warm story of friendship, betrayal, and the power of forgiveness. The old bridge, once abandoned to the cold fog, was now a place people visited to remember a young man who had given his life, and the girl who dared to face what others avoided. Asha became known with admiration as the girl who befriended the ghost. Though to her, it was more than a title. It was proof that bravery sometimes meant not conquering fear, but confronting the truth, no matter how painful. On bright moonlit nights, she would still cross the bridge, standing silently to watch the silver-lit river. In her heart, the image of Ravi's smile on the night they parted stayed clear. A reminder that every soul, even one long departed, deserved to be heard and understood. The story became a reminder for the whole town. Forgiveness cannot erase the past, but it can open a path for both the living and the dead to find peace.